So this pair of jeans has made me over $130,000 and kind of become like the entire backbone of my clothing brand. We sold over 1,000 pairs, sold out multiple times, and it's still the highest performing product that we've ever released in the last 2 years I've been running my brand. I'm Marshall and founder of Tamed Psychotic, and in this video I'm going to break down the exact process that I use to create what I like to call a hero product, which is essentially just a piece that is so dialed that your customers literally fight to buy it for long periods of time, forever. Hopefully. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to identify winning product concepts, how to run iterations and fine-tune those concepts into perfection, and then how to turn one idea into a six-figure revenue stream. And I also have a somewhat selfish agenda as well with this video, and that is to essentially erase every piece of bad advice that you've gotten from YouTube clothing brand owners that have actually never done anything of significance with their clothing brand. So yeah, now that I've got that off my chest, let's get into it. Now, first let's talk about where brand owners get it wrong, okay? And that's creating products in a vacuum. They'll see something trending over on TikTok, they'll suck it up, slap their own logo on it, drop it, and then wonder why it doesn't hit. Or they'll drop 15 different pieces that they see on TikTok and Instagram and shit, drop it, and then just hope that one of them hits, right? And that's not strategy, that's gambling, all right? That's a blind search, dude. See, the difference in brands that create one-hit wonders and the brands that build empires is one thing, all right? They don't create to find the next big hit. They create to solve problems that exist within their own wardrobe. When I started developing the Maverick Denim, I developed it as a solution to a problem within my wardrobe. See, I love vintage, all right? I had a bunch of vintage Levi's, all right? I love the different washes, the different hardware, the aged leather tags on the back, right? But the problem is that old vintage Levi's don't have an up-to-date fit that suits the silhouette that I prefer, right? The fit that I prefer. It's kind of baggy in all the wrong places, tapered, you know, at the bottom more often than not, kind of tight around the ankles, you know, and that's just kind of not really what I was feeling. But I had this other pair of pants that I bought from an Instagram brand, and they had a more modern fit, but they were just like too like new school, all right? The wash wasn't really there. The distressing was just inauthentic. It felt manufactured. The hardware wasn't there. The tag was just like, it looked brand new, and I don't know, I didn't like it, but I did like the fit. And this is where I identified a gap in my wardrobe and an opportunity for the clothing brand market. I literally laid both pairs of jeans on my desk and thought to myself, what if I could combine the two? And this is your first principle, okay? Start with pieces that you actually like to wear, the pieces you want to wear, the pieces you reach for most often in your wardrobe, in your closet. And you know what? If there's something missing in your wardrobe, in your closet, then more than likely it's missing in your customer's closet too. See, the problem is most of you guys are creating products for the market rather than creating products for yourself to solve your own problems, all right? And that is principle number one. Create product solutions for yourself and then find people who like the same things you like. And you know what? There's some brand owners who do get this, right? And they make that product, but that's where their progress stops. They make a sample and it's not perfect. They drop it. It isn't successful, so they move on to the next thing. And that's where you fuck up. That's where you miss a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that could take your brand from zero to hero. A hero product doesn't come to being accidentally, all right? It comes into being through obsessive iteration. The Maverick Denim, currently there are 3 versions, and the first version took 4 rounds of sampling just to get the first version right. Round 1, the wash was too light, looked cheap, looked fake, looked manufactured, didn't have that like vintage, authentic, years old feel. Round 2, fit was off in the thighs, right? Didn't have that drape that I wanted. Didn't have that straight leg feel. There was just something off. It wasn't long enough. It wasn't quite wide enough on the bottoms. It was just the fit needed an adjustment. Round 3, I realized that the distressing pattern was still not dialed. So we dialed that, made it look more real, less squared off, less artificial, more unintentional, more asymmetrical, accidental, authentic, right? And round 4, we finally got it right. We got the wash right, we got the fit refined, we got the pattern right, we got the hardware right, we got the distressing right. I mean, we had a good fucking pair of denim. And here's where it gets interesting. All right, we didn't just create that one version. We actually created 2 more versions, both in blue and black, totaling 6 different variations of the Maverick Denim. Version 1 was minimal, but had character, all right, subtle distressing. Version 2 had no distressing, all right, same wash, same feel, same fit, but no distressing. And version 3 had even more distressing than the first, more character than the first, more harsh wash than the first, coffee stained threads. It just looked older and more authentic, more warm toned. We were looking for maximum vintage appeal. And you know, most brands would probably call that overkill. I call it data collection. I call it productive experimentation. You can call it whatever the fuck you want. The point being is your first sample is never your final product. All right, budget for at least 2 to 4 iterations before you release your first version. And once you nail that concept, then create versions to figure out what your audience actually wants, not what you think that they want. But when it comes to denim, what separates a $40 pair of denim from a $130 pair of denim? Well, it's not just the denim, it's the details that tell a story. So while we were focusing on the basics of development, you know, the fit, the wash, the color, right? I was obsessing over the little tiny details that would make this pair of jeans so different from anything else on the market, and so new and so fresh and so appealing, and something that I just really loved looking at. So I started pulling references everywhere. All right, Jean Co. for tag inspo, for construction inspo. That's actually where I got the snip tag idea on the back from. And then I looked into actual like hardware. Like, what are the different types of hardware? Because you can do a button, anybody can do a button. All right, but I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I picked the fireman's clasp to basically be the pants enclosure, right? The button, the, you know, the fly closure, whatever the fuck you want to call it, clasp mechanism, whatever. And a lot of people liked it. All right, a lot of people asked about it, and it gave the jeans kind of a character. And in addition, I also created the back pockets to be very tapered towards the outside, because I wanted that kind of like baggy, like bow-legged kind of drapey fit. And the way that the pockets kind of tapered down on the back really kind of like forced that silhouette in a way that I really liked. And you know what this does? This gives you an array of details that gives your customer an option to highlight, right? Were they going to highlight the tag? Were they going to highlight the fit? Were they going to highlight the clasp mechanism? Were they going to highlight, you know, the wash or the pockets on the back? What were they going to highlight? And what we found is that everybody really appreciated the fireman's clasp, right? They appreciated the fireman's clasp and the snip tag in the back. So we took those details and applied those details that we already had data on, right? We knew people already liked these. We knew our audience already liked these, and we applied those details to other garments. See, details aren't just like aesthetic choices, they're identification points. All right, these small details matter, right? Because, you know, you think about Margiela, right? What is a detail that has been carried through every single one of all of their products that's just recognizable? You realize it instantly. Well, it's the tag seams on the back, the 4 corners, right? You've seen those, you see them all the time on Margiela pieces, and that is a detail that they found that people really liked, that they carried into other products. And that's exactly what we did with the Maverick Denim, and the clasp mechanism on the front and the snip tag in the back. So now that your hero product is actually made, how do we start selling it to people? Well, most brands start with an announcement of like a new drop, right? And they just hope that everybody starts carrying for whatever reason. I don't know. There's typically not a reason. It's just a hope, that a fallacy that people have in mind, that if they drop clothes and all of a sudden people are going to care. Well, surprise, people don't give a fuck. Okay, people don't give a fuck unless you make them give a fuck. See, before we were ready to start selling the Maverick Denim, I was documenting the entire process of developing it, from sample 1 to sample 2 to sample 3 to sample 5 to sample 15. Okay, I was documenting the entire process, and the reason being, I'm going to blow all of your minds real quick with this one lesson, okay? If you can show the friction that stood between the idea and the conceptualization of the idea, you can assign perceived value to the conceptualized idea because you can show that it was difficult to obtain. Gold is not easy to obtain, right? You have to pay lots of money for it. You have to look far and long for it. Therefore, the value of gold, the perceived value of gold, is assigned. It's higher than maybe tinfoil, on the other hand, which is very easy to obtain. You can go to any dollar store and get it, right? 2 minutes away. I could DoorDash some tinfoil. I couldn't DoorDash gold, right? We're showing the difference in friction, the difference in difficulty to acquire somebody. All right, that's just a value principle all of you guys should know. So moving forward, I started documenting the process of developing this denim. All right, and before I sold it, I actually did multiple videos talking about the development process, right? Showing that it took me some fucking work to get there, right? That I made a great pair of denim, but that it took a lot of work to get there. Right? That it took a lot of revisions and resampling and doing more research and sourcing new references and spending time on my computer searching for, details and shit and collecting different details. And the special thing about this was not only was I assigning value to the pair of jeans by showing the difficulty required to create them, but I wasn't just showing the development of a product, I was showing the solution to a problem. And it wasn't just a problem I had, it happened to be a product that lots of other people had too. And by the time we were ready to launch, we had tons of people asking, where can I get these? When can I get these? How much are they gonna be? I need these jeans. All right, it was amazing, it was sick. And then launch day happened, 200 units in 4 minutes. 200 units in 4 minutes. For us, at that time, that was pretty insane. And the crazy thing is, it wasn't because of hype tactics or any crazy perceived scarcity. It was because we had spent months creating a product that actually solved a problem that I had. We put research into it, we put time into it, we showed the process of developing it, we solved a problem, and we didn't solve it privately, we solved it publicly, and we showed the difficulty to acquire that product, the difficulty to make it, which made the perceived value of that product higher. So if you were to take any lesson from this video, and you should take all of them, it's that you should always start creating hype and attention in the development part of the process. Not after the product is developed, not after you've already made it and ordered the bulk, before, during, so that you can start building demand before you drop, so that there is hype, right? There is demand. You drop it and then it sells out, right? And you can sell it again, sell different versions of it, and keep making money and growing your brand on that product. Document your process, okay? Share your vision. Give people an opportunity to get invested in the project before it's even available to buy, to be a part of. Now, with all this planning, preparation, documentation, it was pretty clear to me and my team that this was going to be a winning product, that it was gonna sell out, was gonna do well, people really wanted it. And this was a signal to us that we were on the verge of something super special. Now, it seems pretty obvious at this point that if it worked for us there, that we would continue sticking to that playbook, doubling down on what's working, right? Well, apparently not, because a lot of clothing brands that I see these days, they have a hit, they find a winning product, and then they get shiny object syndrome and they see this brand over here doing this product and like, ooh, let me go try that. Let me just abandon what just worked and what just hit and go try what this brand over here is doing, because they're doing good and we want to do good too. So let's just do what they're doing. What the fuck kind of logic is that? And it's not even the logic that's the issue. It's that you're given shitty advice to reimagine your brand's foundation over and over and over, to just always hop on the hottest new product, when that's just not what identity is about. All right, you're abandoning what your foundation was built on. Okay, that is suicide for your brand. You need to understand that your winners, as big or small as they be, that's where you build your empire. All right, whenever we dropped this denim and we realized that a vintage touch to modern fit was a hit for us, we doubled down on that. We started referencing tons and tons of vintage items and basically making our brand a modern take on 90s vintage grunge type clothing, and it fucking works. Boom! Brand doubled in size in less than 6 months because we doubled down on a concept that was winning for us, rather than getting distracted by trendy shit and what other people are doing, getting shiny object syndrome, and abandoning what our foundation was built on, what our wins told us was going to work. So instead of going and making different products, we actually made 2 more versions of this product, right? Again, version 1, minimal distressing, minimal character. Version 2, no distressing, no character, plain and simple. That one actually didn't sell as well. as Maverick V1, as V1 Maverick Denim. That one did not sell well. So we were like, okay, well, if that didn't sell well, the V1 did, let's just double down on V1 and just go even harder for V3. And V3 was V1 plus some additional character, right? Coffee stained threads, heel bite distressing, even more distressing blowouts on both knees rather than just one. And then boom, that one actually did way better than V2. And it didn't do quite as good as V1, but it did much, much better than V2. Close to performance of V1. And in this data right here from V1, V2, and V3, this became our blueprint. This is how we found out what our audience wanted, what worked for our brand. So we kept making the Maverick Denim, dropping it in different iterations, different colors, different washes, right? And we'll probably continue to do so throughout the years. We made a lot of money from that concept. It grew the brand a lot. It garnered a lot of customer appreciation, but we took a lot of concepts that we learned from dropping those 3 pair of denim into our next pieces. One thing you don't know about the V2 didn't have the fireman's clasp because we were like, you know what, maybe people don't really like the fireman's clasp as much, right? It didn't have it and it failed. That's probably one of the reasons it failed, right? So we took a concept that we knew worked for V1, put it back in V3, V3 went up, and then we took the concepts of V3 and dispersed them into our next products, right? For example, we made jorts recently, the Maverick Denim shorts, and we put the same tag, snip tag on the back and the fireman's clasp on the front of the jorts. They did great. It was a detail everyone loved. We made a couple of upgrades. We changed the wash just a tad. We changed the woven tag inside, and we, used a little bit of an unconventional fit, and people loved them. We did them in blue and black, and that detail I can 100% guarantee carried into the success of the newer products. Point is, when you find a winner, you don't abandon it, you evolve it. All right, you continue, you milk that shit. All right, your hero products, your winners should be the foundation of your brand. All right, not a one-hit wonder. And it sucks because fast fashion trains us to think in terms of trends and seasons. But the best brands, the brands that do the best, the brands that will be here for a long, long time, the brands that are respected, they don't need to necessarily operate within seasons. All right, I can make sweatpants and hoodies in the summer and people will still buy them, right? I've seen brands like GB Gallery make leather Letterman jackets, drop them midsummer and sell them out, okay? These brands don't operate within the rules of seasons and changes because they stick to their identity. They find their hero products, they find what works, and then they stick to the blueprint that's provided, that's created by the data that those hero products gives them. The Maverick Denim is still performing well. 2 years later, it's not a trend, it's not a fad, it's not fast fashion, it's something that will probably still do well in like 5 years, right? Because it's a good piece, because we put time and effort into the development and research of that product. And we are working on new versions, right? Mud wash, oil wash, paint splatter, tattered knees, right? We're looking at other iterations, not because the first version doesn't work, not because the first version wasn't good, but because we want to continue making new versions and new iterations and evolving the product even further, right? Making it our legacy, because it's already the start of our legacy. It's our signature, item. That's our signature fit, right? But we can turn it into a worldwide, like a huge legacy, like a huge statement for our brand. Similar to how Amiri jeans are kind of like a legacy product, a hero product for the brand, and provides the brand with lots and lots of cash flow to put into other projects, right? Runway projects, big ass campaigns, right? Very high-end, high fashion concepts. And what's even more special is the Maverick Denim has taught us more about our customers and what they love than any kind of market research could have done. Maverick Denim showed us what details matter to them. How long is too long for a pair of jeans? What quality looks like for them, what story they want to be a part of, how they want to be perceived wearing the clothes. Don't build products, right? Build platforms and build concepts that can evolve and grow and kind of like be malleable over time. Your goal isn't to just make clothes. Your goal is to make pieces that kind of just further solidify your brand identity over time. And that, my friends, is how one pair of jeans made us well over $100,000, became the backbone of my clothing brand and will continue to push us further and further and further into the future, and how you can do that for yourself. And everyone in this video is in a different stage of building their brand. You're in a different part of your journey. Some of you may be just starting out with your brand. Some of you may be making 10, 20, 30K a month with your brand. And then some of you are on your 5th YouTube video, learning how to start a brand, doing everything but starting your brand. And that's the most important step, starting your brand. And because I understand that and I want to push you to do that, I've created something really, really special for you guys. I've created a community of aspiring brand owners and current brand owners who want to scale their clothing brand. It is the best, by far, online education support opportunity for clothing brands. This is exactly what I wished that I'd had whenever I was, 19, 20, 21, trying to learn all the things to build my brand. All right, what took me years to learn would have taken me 3 months to learn had I just had some support. Right? Had I had other guys around me that were in the same fight as me, had I had mentors who had been there, multiple mentors, if I had had 5 mentors that I could ask questions, that could feed me experience, right? If I'd had a syllabus of tasks from point A to point B, point A being starting, point B being having my first successful launch, and then videos to teach each one of those steps, holy fuck, and then coaches and elites to review my submissions of those action items from point A to point B and give me feedback, holy shit, I'd be so far ahead. I would be so far ahead of where I am now. So I built this, all right? It took me 9 months to do and a lot of money to invest, and we're still investing into it. We're actually about to invest about $8,000 to $10,000 into some AI projects to improve our student experience even more. And my students, like Benedictus, who just made $6,000 online sales and $5,000 in-store sales with their clothing brand just this week, are no different from you. The only difference is that they asked for help from my incredible team. Across all of us, we've done over $13 million in revenue for our brands. Yes, I'm not just throwing that number out there. That is a real number. So I can safely say that you are in good hands with me and my team. And with that being said, there's an application in the description below to work with us. And if you do decide to apply, I would encourage you to really sit down and be thorough with this. All right, take a good 15, 20 minutes and put your heart and soul into this, because we don't accept everybody, because we don't believe that everybody is fit to run with us. All right, because some people just don't have the heart for it. They don't have the grit for it. They don't want it enough, or they just want to get into to make money. And that is not who we are. All right, we are raising and cultivating the next generation of brand owners. I want to be like a Virgil figure in 10 years. I want to be one of the, people who enabled the next wave of clothing brand owners to rise and take over the industry. That is my goal, so my standards are high. And if not, it's totally okay. We'll be dropping videos every single week, so please subscribe for more value. I'll be doing my best to educate you guys and just, help nurture you guys as brand owners, business owners, entrepreneurs, and young men and women. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.